Hey, you clicked on my video. Appreciate it. Now be sure to like the video and subscribe to the page. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. One of the things that people hope Brian Kelly and his new staff do that the previous staff didn't is have everyone fulfill their potential. Corey Kiner just entered his name into the transfer portal today. He's a 4-star out of Cincinnati, and he played a lot as a true freshman last year. And if you go back into your memory bank, LSU fan was calling for him to get the ball more over Ty Davis-Price because he could make guys miss an open space, and Ty Davis-Price couldn't because the offensive line was so bad, especially early on. But now, everyone that you ask that has covered spring practice so far will tell you that the running backs that are standing out the most are John Emery, Trey Bradford, and on Saturday, Armani Goodwin busted a 60-yard touchdown run, and he's been looking a lot better the past week. And not to mention, Noah Cain, the starter from Penn State, is coming in this summer as a transfer. It's a crowded room, and it's getting a lot more crowded. And Corey was sort of getting lost in the shuffle. Now, along with the fact that Brian Kelly said that he will be out the last week of practice with a high ankle sprain. So he was also going to be losing reps. Look, we can do the whole this generation of kids and competition and the transfer portal rant, ruining college football, all that stuff. I'm not going to do that because it's exhausting and it's stupid and I don't feel like it. And really all this tells me, though, is that a guy in Corey Kiner, who was a starting caliber running back as a true freshman last year on your team, is leaving because of playing time. Or maybe he's homesick. I don't know what it is, but it's most likely because of playing time, which tells me that everyone else in that running back room is on their A game. Brian Polian has mentioned Trey Bradford as someone who has stood out to him so far in spring practice. Everyone knows about how John Emery has dominated spring and first-team reps so far, and that he's finally showing out as the 5-star running back he was coming out of high school. And Armani Goodwin, who was a higher-rated running back than Corey Kiner was out of high school, he stood out the most physically. This is what happens when you have people reaching their fullest potential and when you have coaches getting the most out of your players. Now, I'm about to say something that's really unpopular. I was not a fan of the hiring of Kevin Falk as the running backs coach. I wasn't. I'm just going to come out and say it. You pushed out one of the best running back coaches and recruiters in the country, and Tommy Robinson, and just let him walk to Texas A&M. Just like, yeah, just go, please. We're going to promote Kevin Falk, who's never coached running backs before. Well, he played running back for a long time. Okay, I don't care. He never coached it. Tommy Robinson was a long-time running backs coach and was the assistant of the year in the Pac-12 before he followed you to LSU. All right? I'm not a fan of hiring former players who never coached at a high level. I don't care at how high of a level they played at. I care at how high of a level they've coached at. I'm more into hiring coaches who have grinded their way to the top as coaches, not as players, as coaches. Who is the proven coach? You may not want to hear that, but it's no secret that the running back room is now looking better so far in camp. And guys are reportedly starting to live up to their hype. Guys who are more highly recruited than Corey Kiner was. Now, I believe Corey Kiner would have helped, and I believe he is a good running back. I believe he's an SEC caliber running back. But him transferring, believe it or not to me, is actually a good sign because he was a starter last year. And he's transferring out for playing time. That tells you all you need to know. Now, I'll get to the quarterback stuff in a minute, but I wanted to address something first. The big video that was going around from practice on Saturday in Tiger Stadium, and I had made a comment about this earlier in the weekend. It was shot by the Jordy Culotta Show, and it was a video of Brian Kelly stopping practice 30 minutes in to call up the entire offense and defense in a huddle in the middle of the field, in the middle of the stadium. Because apparently Malik Neighbors, the wide receiver, had ran past and burned some cornerback who I've never heard of, number 40. I don't even know who that is. But Malik Neighbors, burned him, ran past him, caught the ball, and was trash-talking him, showing off, because the cornerback had messed up. And you could hear Brian Kelly yell at Malik Neighbors, "Don't show up your teammate. Stop showing up your teammate." Now, I don't know what was said, but supposedly it was because Brian Kelly was not liking the fact that every time a player made a mistake, a teammate on the other side would trash talk or put them down for messing up or dance in front of them, whatever. Here's what I'll say. I know everyone thought the interview with Patrick Queen, when he was telling the story about him and Joe Burrow getting into a fight with others at practice, and he had him in a headlock and they were punching each other, and everyone thought that was funny and awesome. I did too. I laughed. But at the same time, this frat house mentality just has to go away. All right? In the SI article by Ross Dellinger, where they interviewed Brian Kelly and some of the players and some of the shadow staff members about the changes that are going on in the culture, they had one player who was playing loud music in the hallways in the facilities, and some shadow staff member stopped him and said, "You'd better turn that down. You're not allowed to do that anymore." And you may think, well, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal was every little thing you do matters. You can't just run around fighting people. You can't just run around trash talking everyone. You can't just go around playing loud music because you're disturbing everyone around you. There's a difference between playing music that you're listening to and blaring it so loud that everybody has to get up from what they're doing, close their office door, tell you to be quiet, and then they lose time and focus from what they're doing. Fighting and trash talking at practice, I don't have an issue with it, okay? But there's a difference between a little shoving match after a play every once in a while and everybody just constantly just getting into a fist fight. There's a difference between friendly trash talk and competition versus being demeaning and hazing towards your teammate for screwing up every time they make a mistake. I mean, think back to when all of you probably played sports at some point in your life, okay? Even if it wasn't past high school. How many of you knew that guy on your softball team, on your little league team, on your basketball team, on your football team, on your track and field team, whatever sport you played? How many people had one teammate or a couple of teammates that were just douchebags, that were negative to everybody every time somebody made a mistake and nobody wanted to be around them? Well, imagine a whole team that acted that way. That's what they have to clean up. I mean, LSU had to deal with a divided locker room the past couple of years, and every little thing you do makes a difference. Everything Brian Kelly seems to be worried about every time he opens his mouth with this team is not physical, but it's mental and emotional more than anything. That seems to be the thing that he's worried about the most. And this clip pretty much summed it up. On Saturday after practice, he was asked about the wide receiver room and how it's progressed with learning the new offense and the system and the timing, how he thinks it's getting better. And this is what he said.
I think I would look at it differently. I think we're building some grit in this group. I think there's talent. We're looking for guys that can sustain a consistent level of play for 4 quarters. We're having long practices, and then we're not getting into team play and throwing it to them in competitive situations till late, so they're fatigued, and we want to see them fight through those and make the big catches late. They look really good in period 1, 2, and 3, right, in those tempo periods. I want to see them late. So we're developing a mental toughness with that group. So if you were to ask me, where's the group? I think it's talented. I think that they're going to be a group that we can count on. But there are things in this total preparation that I keep talking about that we really have to focus on. And it's not the physical. I think their technical and tactical is pretty good. It's the mental preparation that we're really focused in on.
It's not mental. It's physical. It's all emotional. It's all team building. That's what the problem was, because LSU didn't lack talent the last 2 seasons. It was everything else that was the problem. Now, speaking of mental versus physical, as far as the quarterback room goes, Jaden Daniels and Miles Brennan seem to be still taking control of who's going to win the job. Jaden Daniels, especially on Saturday, he was doing very little throwing in team periods and in scrimmages, and he was doing way more designed runs than, say, Miles Brennan, who did a lot more passing. So you really don't see him throw all that much, so it's kind of hard to tell at the moment, but they're the ones still taking first-team reps. And every report that I read about Garrett Nussmeier is that on Saturday, he was too inconsistent. He was making big-time throws, and then he would make really bad throws that he would overthrow somebody. Now, Brian Kelly was asked about Garrett Nussmeier's progression and how he's going forward, and he said, well, look, all of his abilities are there. His mental state is all there. But it's the technical stuff. It's the footwork. It's all these other little things, probably accuracy and decision-making, that he still needs to work on. And he's slowly getting better. He's still essentially too much of that erratic gunslinger, even though Brian Kelly said that he is getting better at all the other stuff. Now, early on, people were saying that, no, it's a 3-quarterback race, and Nussmeier's been the most consistent. But from what everyone has seen at practice the last week, they're saying it's not. He's clearly the third quarterback, and he's still too inconsistent with all of his throws, even though he's making some wow throws every once in a while. But according to all signs, this is still a Jaden Daniels, Miles Brennan race for who will be the starting quarterback. Every practice between them, especially this past week, is still essentially a tie between the two. It's different, but it's a tie. And with a week left in spring practice, it looks like the quarterback race is going to end up with just one of those two, just like we all expected it would. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.